We have made it to the NFL's version of the Elite Eight. Each team is now square. They are all 3 wins away from hoisting the Lombardi Trophy on February 12th. This is the Divisional Round, and I am Johnny Talk Sports, here to provide you with my Divisional Round preview and predictions. You never truly know what's going to happen in the NFL playoffs, and last year proved that. We had both number one seeds lose on the same day on game winning field goals at the horn. In fact, all 4 games in the division round last year went all the way down to the wire, and it was easily the most exciting weekend in football I've ever seen. And it's going to be tough for this year's division round to follow up what we saw last year. But now that the stage is set, let's get to the predictions for the divisional round. Our first game of the weekend, the Jacksonville Jaguars and the top seed in the AFC, the Kansas City Chiefs. Last week, we saw the Jacksonville Jaguars pull off a storybook comeback against the Chargers in the wild card round, fighting all the way back from a 27-0 deficit to come back and win, and now they go on the road to Arrowhead to take on the top-seeded Chiefs. This is a rematch from Week 10, where the Chiefs won 27-17. Christian Kirk had a day with 105 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns for the Jaguars. The Chiefs' defense held Travis Etienne to just 45 rushing yards on 11 carries. And for the Jaguars to pull off the upset against the Chiefs, Travis Etienne is going to have a lot more than 11 carries. As the strategy, when you're going against a top-tier offense like the Chiefs, it's to assert the ground game early and often. Patrick Mahomes led the league in passing yards this season, and 331 of them came against this Jaguars defense. I have seen lots of concerns from the Chiefs Kingdom on social media about the defense, but they've really stepped it up in the last few weeks of the regular season, only allowing 15.6 points per game in their last 3 games heading into this matchup. We've also seen the emergence of rookie running back Isaiah Pacheco, who's had 830 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns so far this season. We've seen Jerick McKinnon have a big presence in the Chiefs passing game with 8 receiving touchdowns in the last 6 games. Now, a stat was released over the weekend on how Trevor Lawrence is undefeated on Saturday in high school, college, and in the NFL. But he's never taken on Andy Reid after a bye week on a Saturday, which is why I like the Chiefs in this matchup to advance to the AFC Championship game behind a big performance from Patrick Mahomes, just like he did in Week 10. And I've seen some Chiefs fans concerned about this matchup as Trevor Lawrence, he does have that dog in him. As the Jaguars, they have shown time and time again that they are going to be a tough out. They are a scrappy team. Doug Peterson, he coaches up this scrappy team to never give up. But I just think this Chiefs offense is going to be too much for Jacksonville to handle. I like Travis Kelce to finally get a touchdown, as he has not had a touchdown in weeks, so he's hungry for the end zone. And I just think the Chiefs, they're just too hot at the right time, and that's what you want in the playoffs. The Jaguars, they're hot as well, but the Chiefs having that extra week is going to be extremely beneficial for them. The question is, do the Chiefs cover the spread? Now, the line I found was interesting. I believe it was 8.5, I think. Or it was 9.5. But the only reason why the Jaguars, they got within 10 was because they scored late. The Chiefs' defense was playing relaxed. So I expect the Chiefs to come out and dominate this matchup against the Jaguars. Second game of the weekend, the New York Giants go on the road to take on the top seed in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles. The last time these NFC foes matched up was Week 18, where the Giants rested their starters and the Eagles won by a score of 22-16. But the Eagles were playing pretty conservatively from my observation, as they knew ahead of time all they had to do was win, no matter what circumstance, and they'd be the number one seed. What we really need to go back on was the Week 14 matchup where the Eagles dominated 48-22, where they averaged nearly 8.5 yards per carry. Miles Sanders had a dominant performance against that Giants defense. Perhaps the Giants could carry some momentum into this playoff game coming off of a confidence booster against the Vikings last week, holding Dalvin Cook to just 4 yards per carry in the wild card matchup. Adoree Jackson also stepped up for the Giants defense, holding Justin Jefferson to just 37 yards on 6 catches, and he lined up on Justin Jefferson on 85% of the Vikings offensive snaps. I've seen some comments saying the Eagles are going to be one and done in the playoffs, particularly in some of my recent videos in the comments section. But I truly just can't see it. I get that anything can happen in the playoffs. But I just look at this Week 14 matchup where the Eagles absolutely dominated. Saquon Barkley only had 9 carries in the Week 14 matchup. Plus the Eagles, they are getting a lot of injured guys back in these previous few weeks. And if you're going to make a postseason run, you need to have your entire team healthy. I mean, the Giants, they're healthy as well, but I just feel like the Eagles with their bye week is beneficial for them. Jalen Hurts is back and confident, and he is absolutely locked in. In fact, he wanted to watch film on the team's day off that the team was given. So for Saquon Barkley to give the Giants a chance in this game, he's got to have at least 25 carries, probably even in the range of 30 to 35 carries for the Giants to have a chance in this one. The big key for them is to win the line of scrimmage early. And the Giants' offensive line, it's been shaky over the years. But can they win that line of scrimmage early on and often? As that's what the Commanders did to give the Eagles their first loss of the year. They asserted the running game early with Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. And they won the line of scrimmage. They got themselves in short yardage situations. And they played defense. As the Commanders, they got an underrated defense as well, like the Giants. As I've said throughout the year, the Giants are going to be an underrated defense, and they could be a team that surprises some people. Well, they've made it to the final 8 in the NFL playoffs. But I still like the Eagles to win this game. As I've already mentioned a moment ago, Jalen Hurts is dialed in, he's locked in, and he's ready to make a Super Bowl run for this Philadelphia Eagles team. We are now on to the Sunday games, with our next game being what is without a doubt in my mind the game of the week, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Buffalo Bills. Both of these teams showed some concerns last week in the wild card round matchups. However, sometimes all you can do is survive and advance, and both teams managed to do so. And there's a lot of hype to this game. We have 2 of the best quarterbacks in the league in Joe Burrow and Josh Allen, both teams out on a complete revenge tour. I feel like a broken record saying it almost every week for the last 2 months, but I will say it again. The Bills' defense is very concerning to me, and last week was no different. I will, however, give them credit by holding Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in check pretty well. However, Skylar Thompson had a misread on the final play on offense for the Dolphins, as he had Tyreek Hill wide open. And if he sees Tyreek Hill on that play, with Tyreek Hill's speed, I think it's possible Tyreek Hill scores in that play. And it puts the Bills in danger of being a first-round exit. And I think this Bills secondary is going to have a hard time with this Bengals receiving core, as I believe the Bengals have the best receiving core in the NFL, with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd. We've even seen Hayden Hurst step up as of late. So this receiving core is going to be the toughest the Bills have faced all year long. And the last time we saw these two teams square off was in Week 17 in a game that could not be completed, as we saw the most horrific moment in NFL history on national television. And it's traumatizing and frightening to think of, but we have to move on. It's great to see that Damar Hamlin has recovered and he's been released from the hospital, discharged. It's great that he's in good spirits. It's great to see all the people that donated to his charity. But we just got to move on. Now, despite the concerns with the Bengals offensive line going into this game, as I do believe that three of their starting five offensive linemen, their status is in question. We've seen Joe Burrow and the Bengals overcome offensive line troubles before. It was a big story for the Bengals all season long last year in their Super Bowl run. And I have no doubt in my mind the Bengals, they will overcome, as they've done it so many times in the last year and a half. Which is why I like the Bengals in this game. But I'm looking forward to this one. This is going to be that type of game, I think, with whoever has the ball last is going to win this game. And I think that's going to be the Bengals. I expect a shootout. I think we're going to see a high-scoring game. I think we could end up getting into the 40s in this matchup with how good these offenses are. I just find the Bengals defense a very underrated defense, as it doesn't really get talked about as much. Well, this Bills defense, I've said for weeks, there's going to be a point where they're going to be missing these key defensive players, such as Von Miller, and this is going to be that kind of matchup. I just think that it's going to open up some running lanes for Joe Mixon. I like the Bengals to upset the Bills and move on to the AFC title game. The divisional round wraps up with a historic rivalry, the Dallas Cowboys and the San Francisco 49ers. Some of the NFL's most memorable moments have taken place when these teams square off. What is in store for us in this matchup? The 49ers appear to be the people's favorite in the NFC, and for some, even hoisting the Lombardi Trophy. We saw the Cowboys dominate against the Buccaneers on Monday Night Football last week, setting the sports media into a TB12 circus for probably the next month or two on whether or not Tom Brady will retire, return to the Bucs, or sign somewhere else in free agency. Now the Cowboys go on the road to take on rookie quarterback Brock Purdy. Mr. Irrelevant has become Mr. Relevant, as he has not played like a rookie quarterback at all since he took over as the starter. We saw Purdy have a gem last week against the Seahawks, throwing for 332 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, and had a rushing touchdown as well. But despite the dominant performance, they trailed the Seahawks at the half, 17-16. And then we saw them dominate the second half. And I think that we could see something similar this week. I did say last week, however, for the Seahawks, the big equalizer was going to be the passing game, as the 49ers pass defense is the weakest part of their team. And we saw Geno Smith have his way with that 49ers secondary early on in that matchup. But that fumble in 49ers territory was what changed the tide in that game. I think we're going to see Dak Prescott have his way with that 49ers secondary early. So he's going to look for CeeDee Lamb. Dalton Schultz had a 2-touchdown performance on Monday night last week. We saw Michael Gallup find the end zone. So this Cowboys team is confident. In fact, I think that last week's performance, not only was that the best performance for Dak Prescott for the season, but perhaps his career. And I think that was the best game the Cowboys have played all season long. So they have got some momentum and confidence heading into this matchup. The 49ers defense is going to, I think, struggle early on against Dak in the passing attack, just like they did last week against the Seahawks. But they did make adjustments. And the Cowboys defense is able to make some stops early on to keep the Cowboys in this game. But the question is, will they be able to keep them in the game from start to finish? As I think eventually the 49ers, they're going to take advantage of the weapons they have. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. We even saw Elijah Mitchell be productive in last week's matchup against Seattle. But as much as I want to see the Cowboys win the Super Bowl so I can see 95% of the country just absolutely lose their minds over it, it's just hard to go against the 49ers at this point. As the 49ers, they are the hottest team still in these playoffs, and they were the hottest team going into the playoffs. They've now won 11 straight games. And we've seen time and time again, the Cowboys have opportunity after opportunity, and they've blown it. And they've managed to lose in heartbreaking fashion. And I think it happens again here. Either the 49ers absolutely dominate the Cowboys, or the Cowboys lose in heartbreaking fashion. I just can't see the Cowboys winning this game. As much as I want to see it happen, I just can't see it. I'm going with the 49ers to move on to the NFC Championship game, and that will do it for my divisional round predictions. Comment your predictions down below. As always, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Have a great rest of your day or night whenever you happen to be watching, and enjoy the playoff action this weekend. It's going to be a good divisional round, and I will see you back here next week for the conference championship predictions as we get closer and closer to Super Bowl 57.